huge praise this week as the bike did get sold. So thank you to everybody who was praying that the motorcycle would get sold for the full asking price and that the first guy that was supposed to look at it would buy it, because that's exactly what happened. I was getting a little worried on Wednesday evening because he hadn't responded yet, but he ended up responding. And Thursday evening, he came, he took one loop around the bike and said, "This is great." And so that bike is now sold, and that was sort of the biggest thing that needed to happen before going overseas. So that's a huge load off of me because I don't have to worry about that motorcycle anymore. So thank you to everyone who is out there praying for these things, because again, the Lord has come through once again and has provided in that way. So that's a huge praise for this past week. But for this coming week, I have two prayer requests that I have for all of you in the prayer team. And I could ask for a lot of things because there's a lot of little details that are leading up now to get on the flight. But I wanted to just kind of boil it down to two. And so the first one is pretty obvious, and that's safe flight to be able to get overseas to Southeast Asia. And that's just, obviously that the plane would, lift off, landing, all these things, that we would get to Qatar and be able to meet as a team, hopefully get the same seats or, close to the same seats. And then that we would just have safe flights all the way into Southeast Asia to our destination. And so, yeah, just please just keep that in prayer as we, driving up to DC, all these different little details that are going to have to take place to have this safe flight. So that's the first one that I have. But then the second one needs a little bit of explaining because what I put on the prayer card was a COVID test. And so the big thing, and this is probably the biggest thing in my mind, and that's why I'm asking you to pray for it, is because the government where we're going has asked that we have to take the swab 48 hours before we get on the flight. So it has to be, we have to swab it 48 hours before we get on the flight on Thursday evening. So that means that I have to Wednesday morning, get that test and hope that it gets back before the flight on Thursday evening. So that's, hopefully that does happen. And that's why I'm asking for prayer, is that, I do have a plan in place to make sure that it does happen. But just please keep praying that that test gets in time. Because honestly, I don't know what would happen if it doesn't come into my email box before I board that flight. And then, so that's just the first and most important thing, is just that we would get it back in time to get on that flight. That's the biggest thing. But then two, that would be negative, that it would come back as a negative test result showing that I don't have COVID-19 and that I can get on the flight. Because if those two things don't happen, I guess I just can't get on the flight. But yeah, so just please pray that would happen, that we would just have the plan in place, which we do, to get that to happen. But yeah, just please pray that the people who are, doing all of these swabbing and stuff, that they would have this all planned out accordingly and effectively to make sure that we can all get on this flight without a hitch. So thank you for praying for those two things, and that would definitely help me a lot to know that you guys are out there praying for that, and then that would come in with smooth sailing, or smooth flying, I should say. So that's the two things, and a huge praise about the motorcycle. But if you see your Facebook app pinging you a lot this coming week, I apologize, but that's because there's going to be a ton of videos that I'm hopefully going to be recording as I get on the flight, as I get off the flight, and all the things that I'm going to be seeing when I get off. And so there's just so many things that I want to be able to give you guys a clear visual into my life as a missionary, so that you can pray as effectively as you can. So that's why. But for next week, it might be a little bit later on Monday or a little bit earlier on Monday, depending on when I do the update, because I'm moving ahead 12 time zones. So if you see it in your inbox a little bit delayed or ahead of time, that's why. So I plan on continuing the weekly update. But yeah, so if you see a little more content next week than you normally would, I apologize. And I hope that you enjoy watching those videos and seeing those pictures. So just keep tuning in and to what's going on overseas as I take this journey over to Southeast Asia. So thank you everybody who's out there praying. And I will see you next week when I'm in another country.